You don't need a cape to help a mother survive childbirth. You don't need superpowers to save a life in an accident. You don't need a magic wand to assist a child survive cancer. All you need is 30 minutes every 56 days to save 3 lives. The South African National Blood Service honors the heroic blood donors who give the gift of life to those who need it the most. Your blood saves lives.
I guess I'm gonna owe the next lady maybe a box of chocolate or perhaps a whole food hamper. I'm not sure which one it's gonna be, because normally we are into the conversations with Chaz segment at this time of the day, but unfortunately due to a few technical difficulties at the beginning of the show, one of our interviews crossed into her space, so I owe her a Christmas hamper. 2024 Christmas hamper.
It's still Valentine's month. I'll accept. I know about Woolies are still selling Valentine's. What?
Wow. You had a whole Valentine's weekend last week. You were not available last week. You were having Valentine's. So that one.
I was unwell.
Let me expose you out on Valentine's. How are you, Chaz?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
So great to have you on the line. And where are we today as we are continuing in conversations with Chaz to empower and to shape minds for a better future? Where do we stand today?
Today, we're keeping it light, not being hard on people this week.
Yeah.
More informative. I want to talk about medically assisted weight loss, obviously from my perspective. So you'll remember when I first started the show, I told you that I was 120 kgs not so long ago. And I recently got out of the 100, so I'm no longer 100 anything. I'm now 98 kgs. Thank you. So because recently I filmed my update for my YouTube weight loss community, I thought, let me bring my Hope Alive community to the fold and let's discuss, medically assisted weight loss, what that is. We're seeing a trend these days of all sorts of procedures that people are getting done, and it's becoming more and more prevalent in South Africa. Mm-hmm. So, what is medically assisted weight loss, right? So it's a treatment or a procedure that is backed by medical science. It's done under a doctor's supervision for the simple purpose of losing weight. Not to be confused, please, with plastic surgery. I know there's been a high uptake in plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, the BBLs, liposuction. It's not that. That is cosmetic procedure. The big difference is that cosmetic procedures, I'm not doing it to lose weight. I'm doing it to look a certain type of shape, to mold myself into a shape, And the popular shape of BBLs is small waist, bigger bottoms, right?
Small waist, okay.
Exactly. They use liposuction where they suck fat from the stomach and they put it in the lower regions and the doctor then sculpts you. That is not a weight loss procedure. I need people to be very, very cognizant of that. A weight loss procedure is for people who have been deemed obese or severely overweight.
Yeah.
And how do they deem that? They take your height and your weight and your age, sometimes not, your height and your weight and where you should be for how old you are.
Okay.
For me in particular, I was considered obese. I was 120 kgs. I'm 1.52 meters, which is very, very short, which means I'm carrying a lot of weight for my height, right? And for my age as well, at the time, I was in my late 20s, weighing as heavy as I was. I was about 28, 29, and I should have not been weighing 120. And it got to a point where I was carrying a lot of weight. My knees started to hurt, and I suffered chronically from back issues. I think because I was just carrying so much weight. So I want to discuss what are our options in today's society. Particularly in South Africa, we are new to a lot of medical procedures outside of just basic healthcare, right? So firstly, just a little bit of history, because, I got to take it back just a little bit for our people. In the Black community, we're not taught how to eat right. We are always taught just to eat out of necessity, right? Because you have to eat your 3 meals a day. And eating also out of availability. So what can I afford? I'm eating based on my socioeconomic situation. I eat what's available, and therefore sometimes what's available is not always the healthiest. And also stems from things like eating disorders. So these are things that can cause us to gain weight, as we're not educated about how we should be eating.
Mm-hmm.
Also not because of affordability, we're eating just anything that's available. We also have eating disorders. So you'll remember 2 weeks ago we discussed mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So there are
Yes.
people who are suffering from eating disorders, and overeating caused by trauma and stress is a very real thing in our community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone in the studio who's with you there today, Dando.
Artie. I'm with
Artie.
Artie today, yeah. Artie, yeah.
Don't know if any one of you have ever watched My 600 Pound Life.
Yep, I had a job that required me to watch that. So
Really? Sounds like a very interesting job.
production work got me working on that project. It was so it was so traumatizing at some stage, but because it helped me also with I have a personal eating disorder of some sorts. I eat a lot
Okay.
when I'm working. When I'm working on a project, I can have a full chicken,
So it's a
one man.
coping
Yeah.
mechanism. Artie, have you watched My 600 Pound Life?
I have. Yes, I have.
Yeah, and what is your general observation from a show like that? What seems to be the common thread for you?
Problems that people have, history, trauma also,
Yeah.
trauma response. Yeah.
Right, huge. And because I touched on mental health that other week, I have to, we have to tie it all back together.
Yeah.
There's something to be said in a society that is providing food that is fast food, that is easily accessible.
Yeah.
And the unhealthy food is the one that is the cheaper food sometimes more
Exactly,
than healthy
yeah.
food in your groceries. We are getting into a space where people are becoming more and more severely overweight, right? In my particular situation, I can trace back my cause for weight loss because I haven't always been a super big girl. For me, it was trauma. I had a traumatic experience, and I was using the weight. I was holding on to the weight to hold on to, the trauma and not let go. And so that's a little bit of the history of why sort of people are overweight. But let's get into the solutions, right? So there's different types of procedures. We already discussed it's not plastic surgery. There's many different types of procedures, but I want to get into something called gastric procedures. Now, gastric procedures relates to procedures relating to the stomach. So if we take it back to My 600 Pound Life, a lot of the people on that show were getting what they call sleeves.
Yeah.
And that's where they reduce the size of the stomach by cutting a portion of it. Anywhere between 50 to 70% of your stomach gets cut off,
Yeah.
just depending on how big your stomach is. Why do they do that? They do that because when your stomach is smaller, you obviously get fuller quicker, right? And therefore you are physically unable to consume huge amounts of food, and therefore your body has to tap into reserves. So there's different types of gastric procedures. The two main types is the IGB balloon, which is what I did. IGB simply means intragastric balloon, which means
Sounds painful.
a balloon is inserted into your stomach, and then the sleeve that I discussed about.
Yeah.
Painful 50-50, right? So why I did that for me was, again, I wanted to, return to a healthy weight. I looked at pictures of myself during 2020 COVID, and we know COVID, everyone was eating anything because we had to make everything ourselves. And, the option of just having, nice clothes to wear. So the balloons that I want to discuss are two types of balloons. You have an Illurion balloon. Illurion is just the name of the brand, and it's a digital-based balloon that is backed by science. you put it into your stomach. It gets inserted into your stomach for a period of 4 months. And then you have the Obera balloon, which is what I'll discuss in detail because this is the one I did. Obera balloon is not as digital, so it doesn't come with like a digital scale and a watch. You have an option to do it for 6 months or 12 months. So this balloon is like a silicone case, and it gets inserted to your stomach and then gets filled with saline. So it's water, so that even if it bursts, which doesn't happen, it's very, very rare. It's like 1 in a million type stats. Even if it does burst, it's only water that's being poured
into your stomach. Okay.
Anything toxic. And the water has been dyed with the coloring so that because how would I know the difference between water and pee, right? So if I all of a sudden start peeing blue liquid, I know that my balloon has burst, for example. So let's discuss the procedure quick, because you ate into my time today.
Yeah. And Sababs into has me and he says, yeah, you absolutely owe her a box of chocolate.
So the procedure in itself requires a sedation. So there's a whole process, right? You first meet with your doctor. I met with a brilliant doctor by the name of Dr. Asante. He's in Waterfall. He runs a clinic called Weightloss Waterfall Clinic. He will he will give me commission for this plug.
Absolutely.
Go see him and you have a consultation and you discuss what your options are. Thereafter, you then meet with a psychiatrist. Now, this is very important because we touched on medical history.
Yeah.
We need to remember that there's a reason why why we're obese. And most of the time, it's a mental disorder because we either have a food addiction, eating disorder, etc. So you have to be cleared by a psychiatrist. Thereafter, once you're cleared by the psychiatrist, you have your meeting with a dietitian. The dietitian is now conditioning you as to your lifestyle change. Remember now, both these procedures, whether a sleeve or a balloon, is reducing the size of your stomach capacity by a huge amount, which means the food that you do eat has to be good food. You can't just be eating anything because you have a limited amount of space. So you get on a pre-diet. Once you've seen and been cleared by a psychiatrist, you get on a pre-diet to then start conditioning your stomach that it's not going to be receiving the same kinds of food. So you get on, and it also prepares you for surgery. So you get on a liquid diet for about 3 days or a puree diet beforehand. The day of the procedure, you get checked in. You do have to come with someone because you can't be driving, obviously, after any procedure. You're a little bit wonky. You get sedated and you lie on your side, and the sedation obviously kicks in. It's a very quick procedure. It's about 20 minutes. And the camera gets inserted into your throat, right, while you're sleeping. The camera is there to guide the doctors how to navigate inserting the balloon, but it's also there to help them check that you don't have other conditions like hernias or any conditions that may stop them from putting in the balloon. Once they've cleared all of that, the next phase is to then insert a deflated balloon. So if you think of how a balloon looks like when it's deflated, it gets put down in your stomach through a tube. Once they've placed it correctly, they then start to fill it with saline, and then it gets sealed while it's in your stomach. It's a quick 20-minute procedure, and then you wake up and the doctor's like, it's done, and you lose about 20 minutes of your life and you don't know where it went, right? The balloon can be filled up from anywhere between 500 ml to a liter, depending on the size of your stomach. My stomach, I like to think it wasn't that big because they filled up 550 mils which I think takes about 70% of my stomach capacity. So I don't have a lot of space to eat food.
But while we're there, Chaz, quick one. What happens to the desire to eat food? I know the stomach becomes smaller, but the mind, how do you get the mind to now align to, or the rest of the body, in fact, to now understand it, okay, now this is the portion that we're eating. Let's make do with what we're getting.
So the lovely thing about our bodies is that our bodies are always adjusting to adaptations around us. So what happens is that first night, and I want to be very honest with our listeners, that first night you don't sleep because what's happening is your body is fighting a foreign object. It's your body's gone. Remember, our natural instincts goes, what is this? We don't know what this is. It's not part of the body. And the whole night your body is fighting this. So you go through umko for at least 3 nights. It's worse on the first night, gets better, but you're throwing up, you're nauseous because your body is trying to fight this foreign object. So as soon as the body realizes that, oh, this is not a harmful thing, it's not here to kill us, the body then starts to accept the object. And so the tolerance, because the stomach is now reduced in its capacity, and because the body is working together, the signals are now saying there's something in the stomach. There's not enough space to take in a lot of food, and your mind starts to adjust to the capacity. So you've got the dietitian's requirements to eat less, and your mind also starts to adjust, because now when I'm putting food into my mouth or water into my mouth, the stomach sends a signal and says, whoa, that's enough. And the brain then gets triggered and says, I've had enough. But this is where mental health and seeing a psychiatrist comes into play, because if you have not resolved your triggers and not resolved your mental health issues, you will ignore your brain. And this is how people rupture their stomachs, because that is a possibility. If you have food addiction and you're now over capacitating your stomach with the balloon and with excessive amounts of food and eating like you did before, you have the possibility to rupture your stomach. And that's why it's very, very important to only do this when your mind is right as it relates to mental health and food. But your body does adjust and your mind does adjust. Like even when I go out now, I'm cognizant that I can't order. I'm a cheap date now, just by the way. I eat sushi. When I go out, it's just 4 rolls of sushi and I'm full. But it's really helped me in the sense that it's reprogrammed my mind as to how I think about food. Because I only can eat so little, I'm cognizant of the fact that I need to eat something healthy because my body's not getting any more nutrients anywhere else. So there's a huge part. Our body does what it does well. God has programmed our mind very well to be able to send signals to our body and communicate and adjust to each other so that we can all work together. Right? And then most importantly, I want to get into price, because this is my number one question. I do have a series about this. Because the series is cut short here, I have a lot of other detailed information on my YouTube channel. You will find it as just Miss Chaz on YouTube. And a lot of people ask about price, right? Most contentious issue is how much is all of this going to cost me? And it is not cheap, but I think for me, I'm someone who had tried for about 4 years to lose weight, trying all types of diets, and I thought it's just not working for me. I will spend the money to do this. And for me, I'm driven by money, so I'm driven a lot by money. So if I've spent the money to do it, I'm going to lose the weight. I want to see results for my money. So prices, you have your consultations, which is your doctor's consultation, dietitian, and psychiatrist. Your doctor's very first consultation is 2,000 Rand in cash, and it's non-medical aid. The medical aid will not reimburse you
for this
for
one.
that particular consultation, right? Then you have dietitian and psychiatrist. My dietitian cost me 950 and my psychiatrist cost me 1,000 Rand. Fortunately, those are medical aid approved people. So my medical aid actually paid for those consultations. Then you have the actual procedure. The procedure in itself costs you about 47,000 Rand, because remember, the doctor is there. It's your procedure to go under. It's the balloon itself. It's your anesthesiologist to make sure you're alive, all of that. So it costs about 47,000, but my doctor does have specials sometimes, and he gave me 10% off at the time.
That's cool. That's awesome.
So, just don't tell him I said that. Then you have other medical costs. Remember, so you have your prescriptions that you get, your supplements, your vitamins. Because it's a prescription and you have medical aid, it will pay your prescription for you. But for those who don't have medical aid, I would say budget about 1,000 Rand, 1,005 for your medical costs. Then you have food costs. Because that first month, your stomach literally cannot take solid food. You are on liquids and supplements and different types of proteins. You really want to budget about 2,500 Rand for all your liquids, your broths, your soups, and all of that, and as well as supplements. Because you're not getting certain nutrients from eating food anymore, you need to back that up with vitamins. So I would budget about 2,500 Rand initially for my big purchases, and that first month of food, it does get less as you go through the progress because you do ease back into food, just smaller portions. And then for the end of the process, I will to remove the balloon. So for me, at the end of 12 months, my end of 12 months, maybe by then Dunda will be happy. Maybe we'll have like a nice podcast where you'll come with me into the surgery, no? Some type of behind the scenes.
I was already on that. Although Siba is already saying, Yena, he's not a fan of throwing up. It's too tough. So he's not going to be getting anywhere near all this whole space.
Listen, being overweight is hard and losing weight is hard. You must pick your heart.
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And the symptoms only last for about a week, 2 weeks. After that, your body is adjusted to the balloon. The removal of the actual balloon, so after 12 months, is going to be 10K. And by then you would have reached your goal weight. I'm a testament for everybody. I've already lost 20 kgs. I'm not done yet. My final balloon will be removed at the end of August this year. My goal weight was 85 kgs, but I'm already at 98, so I'm cognizant that I may lose more. I'm happy if I do lose more because then it gives me a place to balance my weight loss.
Yeah.
Difference. But I don't want to miss out the important part. Quick. You do have to meet the balloon halfway and you still have to work out. Because our body is not used to releasing fat, you have to ease your body into releasing fat. So I did something called 12-3-30, which is an incline of 12, speed of 3, 30 minutes on the treadmill 3 times a week. It's a very beautiful workout. Put a little series and watch it for 30 minutes. Then I started adding cycling for 10 minutes. And you just get a daily medication just to keep the acid in your stomach going. But yeah, that is in just, the medical sort of weight loss procedure in terms of the gastric balloon. And again, I do have full videos on my YouTube at just Miss Chaz, or you can follow me on TikTok at Chaz In Conversation.
Wow, Chaz, before we cross to the news, a quick question. So I still need to do the necessary work, and even if I can get the balloon, I do still need to exercise and also do dieting as well? Or do I get into a space where I'm saying the balloon is doing the work for me anyway, and I can eat whatever I want, not go to exercise at all?
Never. That's not the mentality you can take. So remember, you met with your dietitian.
Yeah.
The dietitian gives you an eating plan in 4 different stages. So as for different stages of your balloon.
Yeah.
So the first month is liquid, second month is puree, third month we start to eat soft foods. By the 4th month, you're starting to eat normal foods again, but in smaller quantities and in healthy foods. So you definitely cannot cheat your way out of food addiction, and that's why the mental part is very important. Working out is so that your body releases the energy, because remember, our fat is stored in energy. You have to work out to start to release that fat and get your body moving. So you cannot run away from that. This is not a cheat process. It is a weight loss procedure, not a cosmetic procedure.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that this afternoon, educating us on an amazing journey. I have had the pleasure of working behind the scenes of one of those kind of series, and hope to work on the one with Chaz, medical assisted weight loss with Chaz this afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you.
No problem. I'll see you guys next week.
We sincerely apologize once again for crossing over to you late, but we appreciate the fact that you executed the show within that time frame. Thank you so much, Chaz.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
And how do we follow you before we let you go?
At Miss Chaz on TikTok, just Miss Chaz on YouTube for this particular segment, and Miss Chaz _ on Instagram.
And that is Miss Chaz, the amazing conversationalist. Do follow her across all social media platforms. It's 1:00. Let's get the latest news.